Hello guys, this is the second video about the head module, and I think today we're gonna end with the head module, meaning that there is no need to discuss a lot of stuff due to the fact that the head module is very similar, as I mentioned, to the spine module. But let's have a look. So the head module starts like the spine. It only displays FK controls at the very beginning. The FK controls are in reality moving the IK controls. We're going to see them in a minute. So we can get really nice and clean rotations when it comes to the neck area. Right now there are 3 controls here, but there might be, depending from the character, there might be no need for so many neck joints. Okay, so I've seen setups with less than that. I figure like 3, it's a good compromise for this specific mesh, but it might be that you just need 2, or maybe even longer. If this is giraffe, of course you need more controls. So we have FK controls that move back and forth, left and right, of course. Then I want you to take a look at this specific control here. I moved this up there, and this is just the shape of it. The pivot is there. I just moved the circle shapes not to interpenetrate the skull. Let's have a look at this, because this control here, you can treat, the way I'm treating this control here is exactly the way I'm treating the pelvis, hence the shading. That's why I shaded the same color, just to have a visual cue. Remember when I was talking about the pelvis, I wanted to have a control to always be able to position the pelvis. Let me select. I don't know why it's not selected. Okay, I wanted to be able to have a control to position the pelvis independently from the IK solver. This control here is exactly the same, of course, being on top instead of the bottom of the chain, but the idea is the same. Why is that? So let me have a look at the RigGraph. The RigGraph has a setup event and a forward solve. The module head is in setup mode for the setup event, and it is not in the forward solve. You can see that by default the FK controls are visible. Let's turn on the IK controls visibility. The IK controls visibility is nothing else. If this is the control for the head, this would represent this control here. Let me compile everything here so it pops back. This control here, it's moving the end of the chain of the IK spline solver. All right. This control here is identical. The only difference is that it's changing its shape to to wrap a little bit more around the head. But this is doing exactly the same. So let's say, so you can see that I have an FK pivot, an FK pivot, an FK pivot, and when I move the FK, the IK controls follows, and you can see that by seeing FK, 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 IK. But children of that, there is the FK again. So this circle here, I'm calling it FK because that's the kind of motion this control performs. So let's see why I think the control needs to be nested in this way. Is basically pretty much the same reason that I've given for the pelvis. So let's say I'm moving my head here and I'm happy with this position. Okay, I achieved this position here and I really like the silhouette. If I want to rotate the head a little bit more because I just want to aim the head towards something. If I were to rotate this now, because of the IK solver solution, this neck area will be readjusted. What if instead, oops, I should not have compiled. What if instead I want to, preserve this curvature but rotate the head a little bit? That's where this control comes into play. I can always adjust the rotation of this control, and this rotation, being completely, independent from the IK solution, allows me to rotate the head independently from the neck position. Again, this is something, it technically is anatomically incorrect because when I spin the head, the neck should twist and align itself accordingly. But it's always nice for the animator to have an additional extra control just to reposition slightly and fix things without affecting the previous change. This is an overall rule that is true everywhere in rigging. So yeah, so this control here, is basically an offset that does not impact the IK spline solution. This is our IK spline solver. These three FK controls are nothing else than, you know, FK controls that are driving the IK solution. And then of course, if you want to turn on the secondary control visibility, you always have those silhouette the silhouette controls available, right? If you want to change the silhouette once the animation is done. Hence I put them hidden, because one of the good things about deploying a rig is it shouldn't be cluttered with controls. So the least amount of controls you can give the animators and give the rather controls over the visibility of all the secondary, the better, because the rig will look less cluttered. On top of that, of course, we have the jaw control. So we have the skull movement. It's the skull. It's a combination of the cranium and the jaw. The jaw follows, because the jaw control is children of this circle, and then you have the jaw per se that pivots and revolves around that area. Okay. So how is this done? Well, this module is called module head, but if I have a look at the module head, it's very similar to the spline. It doesn't look like, because I changed the comments and I adjusted a few things, but let's analyze it. Let me turn off all this stuff. So the first thing I'm doing in the spine is checking the visibility, and the same thing I'm doing here. This visibility thing is what enables me to do this kind of stuff. Okay, IK, whatever. Visibility. Then I'm checking, am I in setup mode? Same as the spine. Am I in setup mode? If I'm setup mode, I want to procedurally place the controls. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm procedurally placing the FK neck controls based on the bones that I've specified, and the bones are coming from here. We're going to have a look at this node in a minute and the list of attributes. Then I'm procedurally, not here, I'm procedurally placing. So I've at this point, this thing in the spine it's positioning the body procedurally, the body control, this box here, but we don't have it, so I got rid of it. So this is procedural placement of the FK controls. This is the procedure. You see that the bit of the body is missing here. So here I'm placing the FK controls. Then I'm procedurally place the IK spline controls. Procedurally place the IK spline control. This solver IK spline, and finally we can see that I'm reusing code. This node is identical to this node, 1-to-1, is literally a copy. You know, if we were to rig this for real, there will be only one function here called solver IK spline. Now, because I'm using two control rigs for the tutorials, it's in two different places, but this solver spline IK is the same as this one. Nothing has been changed. So you can see that now we're starting, the fact that we're encapsulating things into function is starting to pay off, because I can simply drag and drop this node, connect the inputs, and everything will work. And then I'm in the spine here, I'm procedurally placing the pelvis and the upper rib cage. So this control here and this control here. In this case here, it's similar. I'm placing the jaw control based on the jaw joint, and this control based on the skull joint. And that's it for the setup. In the non-setup mode, if I go into the spine, I am solving the spline IK not being in setup mode. Same exactly in the spine. Then I'm in here, I'm saying IK spline solver pelvis ribcage bone connection. So I'm connecting, you know, the pelvis bone to the pelvis control and the ribcage bone to the ribcage control. Here I'm doing the same, but rather than being pelvis and ribcage bone connection, you can see I literally copied because the comment is still that. Here is skull and jaw bone connection. So I'm saying this bone here should move with this bone here, and this bone here, the jaw, should move with this bone here. There is nothing to be said here. and that's pretty much it. Now, when it comes to the input, you can see that the inputs of the function module spine, they do have pelvis bone, spine bone, ribcage bone, except and you would you know, in the RigGraph you would simply type the name of the bones. The same exact thing is for the module of the head, where I rename the bones and remove the stuff that I don't need. For example, the pelvis, I don't need to specify anything because it's a head module, but I rename all these inputs: neck bone, skull bone, jaw bone, neck IK control, head IK control, and then it's pretty much the same. If I go in here and check the, sorry, here, if I check this thing and I collapse that, let's have a look at both of them together. So you can see that it's very, very similar. So I have my rib cage bone would be my skull bone, the jaw bone, and then I have an IK control, pelvis IK control, head IK control, head IK control, tangent control, the ratio, the start FK will be my spine FK. So spine FK control is the neck start FK control, the rib cage FK control is the neck end FK control, etc., etc. And then all the primary axis, of course, because we saw that was important in order to make this thing a little bit more generic. And then everything else is pretty much the same. So I'm hoping that with this video, let me open this once again. I'm hoping that this video, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is really is the same exact concept I went through in the spine, but you know, I'm hoping that this video makes sense. So this basically ends the head module videos. Then the next video I'm going to do probably is going to be about an eye module. Cheers.